So, welcome to day 6, Finding Your Focus. By now, you should have found a recording on the Great 78 project that you're really comfortable with and happy with, and you've written a blog post that starts to gather some information that you're finding on the web about that. But what we really want to do is tell a story about this particular recording. It could be about the artist, it could be about the song, the lyrics, the instrumentation. It could be about the historical context in which the song came out. It could be that it was stolen. It could be about the music business. There's a lot of different angles you can take, so it doesn't just have to be about the artist, him or herself. That's important. So what I want to talk about today is how to dig a little deeper with your research and to begin to write your script. And that's why it's called Finding Your Focus, because what you're really looking for is to teach your audience something new in an audio format where they might be distracted or doing other things. So that's what we're going to do today. Walk you through here is how you might go about finding information about a particular recording. So I'm going to check out, I'm going to go here. If I were in the Great 78 and I search Philadelphia, I'm going to pull up this search here. And it brings me to a list of different recordings within under that search with Philadelphia. So I'm going to click Starlight, Starbright, and I can listen to it here. So let's play that. What I'm going to notice is it's really scratchy, not really terribly well produced. But when I look at the date here, it's 1896, so it's a really old recording, and that's important to my research, as you'll find out later. I note that it's by J.W. Myers. It's called Starlight, Starbright. I notice that there is a review written here. There's obviously download options on the side, so I can do all of that, which is great. So I picked this song because it's from Philadelphia, but I don't really know much about it. I don't know about the opera that it's based on. I don't know anything about the singer, but I do know Starlight, Starbright. I've heard that before. So one of my first earliest questions is, where does this phrase come from? Did it come from this particular song? Was it something that preceded it? Obviously it's a nursery rhyme. My favorite Madonna song, it's in the chorus. Those are some research questions that immediately I have, but of course I'm also want to ask questions about who J.W. Myers is. Maybe should we be making fun of him? Who's Victor Herbert? What's the significance of the Wizard of the Nile? And why Philadelphia? Why was it recorded here? So these are some of the basic questions I kind of enter with to see what I can find out. I know my recording and what I want to use as much as I can from the site to figure out what I'm looking at. So I've got the title here, Starlight, Starbright. I've got J.W. Myers. I've got the idea here that the Victor Herbert's Wizard of the Nile, which was made this recording was made in 1896. So I've got a lot of information to go off of here. So you'll notice I link to these in today's daily plan. So one of the first things I look at is Starlight, Starbright, and try to figure out what the history is with this particular song. And there's not a whole lot here, but it's supposedly an English language nursery rhyme, originally from the late 19th century. We have the complete lyrics here. We've got some information on the origins and other allusions in pop culture, including Madonna. So I've got a little bit to go on here if that's something I'm interested in. The other thing I might look into is let's say Victor Herbert's Wizard of the Nile, because that's where this song actually popped up. So and I kind of link to that here. And if this is quite a long piece, but what I find out is that the genre of the actual opera, because again I know nothing about opera, is burlesque. And if we look a little bit deeper, we realize that burlesque is actually a comedy, something that was made to entertain and to make people laugh. So this makes me think, well, maybe his singing was supposed to be silly, right? Maybe it wasn't supposed to be serious. As the one reviewer down here, he kind of makes fun of him down here, this reviewer Spuzz. Says he's wrong for the part and all this stuff, but that's a cultural assumption, and if you do a little research you realize, oh, maybe this is supposed to be funny. Going back here too, I can of course look up more about J.W. Myers, right? So if I wanted to do that, let me go back to finding my focus, today's plan. I can look up go to a lot of different sources to find out more about J.W. Myers. One would obviously be Wikipedia, and there's actually quite a bit of information here. And it's important to note that there's external links for here. For any of these Wikipedia entries, you want to really look at the references and external links to see if there's other helpful information. And one of these is the biography on allmusic.com. Allmusic.com is a really great resource for music as well. And here's the overview, and I can go to biography, and I get to see a lot of more information about him here. So what I'm doing basically is kind of skimming across the web, collecting as much information as I can, and trying to read up to learn about J.W. Myers, this track, and what its deal is, in hopes of finding a focus, in hopes of finding my hook for readers, or what's going to make the most sense. So as I do that, I collect these notes here, and then I start thinking about tunneling down afterwards. So you'll notice in those research strategies, I'm not just looking for stuff about the artist, but I'm looking at titles, so the song, the opera. I'm looking at other people involved, Victor Herbert, for example. I'm looking at the genres involved, so I'm looking at burlesque opera or operetta, whatever that means. I'm looking at the historical context as much as I can. So again, I'm collecting all of this information, and I'm trying to figure out what information repeats, so that will help me understand what is emphasized, what is essential to the story, and comes through consensus of the different historians that look at it. But also what's interesting, like what would be an interesting thing to pass along to my listener, right? So in the daily plan, I have an activity here for you to take a moment and look at those Wikipedia sources. So you want to definitely do that as soon as possible if you haven't already. And then think about something you always collecting stuff you didn't know and assessing versus how much repetition you see about what you already know. The other thing that's really tricky with doing research for sound is like there are no real footnotes. You don't have time to pause the script to talk about where you got information from. But that doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. So what you really want to do when you're collecting is really, leaving yourself a paper trail. I'm also going to ask you to submit a bibliography in the final project. So you're going to share with me the sources you've used, but you're not just using these. You want to be original with your language. I mean, like you want to really make sure that you're writing from your understanding. So that means putting all the sources away and sitting down to write your script as best you can from what you remember. And that's a different kind of research, perhaps, than you're used to. The trap with this project is twofold. Number one, sometimes writers in the class will make a really boring script that's of a glorified Wikipedia entry. So it'll go through and just say, when the person was born, what they said, or what they accomplished in their life, and it just sort of reads like an encyclopedia. That's really different than a story. The other thing that will happen occasionally is that students really struggle with writing with original language. So I have an activity in today's plan for you can read J.W. Myers from the entry in AllMusic, and then look at a couple different example sentences that were taken from it, and see if you can identify which ones were basically plagiarized and stolen from the original source at AllMusic. And then what I'm asking you to do is this activity at the bottom of compose a sentence that summarizes or paraphrases one of your sources for your script, for your recording ethically. And then there's a Google Doc here that it'll take you to that you can put the original cut and paste from Wikipedia or AllMusic or wherever you get it from, and then your summary or paraphrase. And this will help us practice this tricky skill, and it'll help me see how you're doing with it. So if you don't mind doing that, that would be really great. Otherwise, that's enough for today. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next lesson.